going here too. So let's see.
Yeah, I can turn on video as well. It's not going to be.
All right, so here we go. Standing by. Good morning, Bitcoins. Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2019. My name is Thomas Hunt. We're joined by Ray Youssef, the CEO of Paxful. How's it going, Ray?
Wonderful, sir. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks so much for being on the show. We were just excited yesterday. We saw an interesting tweet that you put out. It's gotten so big that someone even wrote an article about it over at decrypt.co. I think it is, decrypt.co. But first, let's go ahead and read your tweet. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get the chat room open here. I thought we had a tweet about this, but it doesn't look like Google's letting us do tweets anymore. They just kind of launched the live shows now, so we'll just go without the tweet. But here we are. We're going to just read Ray's tweet and recap what he said. He said, "Let's burn all of Satoshi's 980,000 Bitcoins. It will be a soft fork, but if no one comes forward to soft it, then the coins are lost, and so is Satoshi. Let's end this with some closure by fire. Whoever's with me, reply burn." So, Ray, what were you thinking about when you said this, and what do you think about your idea to get rid of the Satoshi coins?
I said nothing of the kind, so it was all a hoax by my enemies. Well, no, I did say that. And then I followed up right after that with another tweet where I said, let's smoke Satoshi out and lay him to peace. And to me, there's a lot of reasons why I said this. So before I tell you those reasons, a little bit about me so everyone understands. I would be best described as perhaps a self-hating Bitcoin maximalist. Yes, Bitcoin maximalism has reached a zenith where there's now self-hating Bitcoin maximalists out there. So the game has evolved. So as far as what I've done on the maximalist front, Paxful, the company which I co-founded with my co-founder Artur Schalbach, Paxful only supports Bitcoin. Our wallet only supports Bitcoin. Our marketplace, everything has to go through Bitcoin. Investors, of course, say, why don't you support, you make more? And they're right, we would make more money. But it feels like a betrayal of the original mission of Bitcoin because the world needs one universal clearing layer, not 67,000 other options. And in so many places in the world, people are just hearing about Bitcoin and we're going to introduce all these other purely speculative assets. It does feel like a betrayal to me. On another note, during the BCH fork, when we came into possession of all that BCH from our customers' coins, we gave them back their BCH as BTC plus 30%. So that's how much of a maximalist I am. It's all about Bitcoin. I'm going to find a way to make it about Bitcoin and bring all the focus onto Bitcoin. Because again, the world only needs one universal clearing layer. And I say this to you guys with an open heart as someone who spends most of his time doing groundwork. By that, I mean like doing customer support, talking to the customers. I do customer support.
So it would be simpler if there was just one kind of
Bitcoin.
And your idea cements that by taking away what could happen if Satoshi came back. What are you worried about if Satoshi came back and started to spend or even just moved his 980,000 Bitcoin?
Well, if Satoshi came back, that's an event that could be good or bad. But I'm not too worried about Satoshi crashing the markets with his coins. Craig Wright has threatened to do that, but he's definitely not Satoshi. He'll never talk to me again, but that's fine. I'm more afraid of the disunity that this causes. The fact that we have Satoshi is more of a specter now, not really a ghost. He's kind of hanging over everything. This latest reveal by this guy, James Kahn. I read the story.
That's a beautiful name. I didn't know his name was James Kahn. That's so. That's apropos, right? That's like a Jimmy ripoff.
Yeah, he changed his name. He had a name, Bilal Khalid, I believe his name was. He's a Pakistani guy, so he had a Islamic name before, and James Khan. Maybe he likes it. That's fine. Um, Whatever he wants to be called, I'll call him. But he's not relevant. Neither is Craig Wright. Craig Wright does not factor into any of this either. We're not. I didn't suggest this just to get back at Craig Wright. That's absurd, right? Why would we make such reactions to someone that is obviously very divisive, right?
Especially, it seems
division.
like the
The whole
court system seems to be handling Craig Wright quite well. They keep making him prove his claims. They keep demanding actual evidence, and they keep following up on whatever claims he does make, and that hasn't been working out well for him.
Yeah, the community has really shown itself to. I mean, they were all rallied behind Holden, and they all came at this guy. So the antibodies are working well, and that really makes me feel good. And the fact that when I put out this, all these people came out with such vitriol, such anger, is a great sign. It means the Bitcoin community is healthy. It means we're starting to lose our beer goggles and we're seeing things straight. Like, hey, let us defend Bitcoin, right? We have to protect Bitcoin. Great. That's a beautiful spirit, and that should be the default. So the question is, why continue to have this conversation? Why put out such a notion? Why even suggest such a thing? Is suggesting such a thing heresy? What do you think? Even suggesting it?
Well, the idea to me, the more I think about it, it's not something that we need to do, but something that we need to have the option to do. We kind of need a Satoshi deterrent. Now, I'm sure everyone thinks if Satoshi came back, it would be their ideal dream Satoshi. He would be libertarian, he'd have long, flowing hair, and he would make all the right decisions. The problem is, if the wrong Satoshi comes back and suddenly has billions of dollars and can move them around, either radically and sell them, sinking the Bitcoin market, or anything else that the new Satoshi could do, it could drastically change Bitcoin. It could upset the entire system. So until we remove these coins, they'll always be there, or until we remove them, it's always going to be a threat. So it seems to me like a deterrent worth having, but it is such a third wire. I really do think from a libertarian perspective, you stepped right into something they don't like, restricting people's access, making it so you can't spend your coins. Even if we're, again, in the similar to the DAO, we're saying we're going to do this once. We're going to do this once. They think it creates a slippery slope where you must do it again and again and again.
Exactly. It would set a precedent that is not favorable. Perhaps even, yes, commie, as some have suggested. That's something that is abhorrent to me, but I understand them completely. So the question is this like skeleton in the closet? Is this landmine so dangerous that we would have to take such a heretical move to try to save the community? And who gets to decide who saves the community from who? If Satoshi came forward today, maybe, okay, so I would love to know who Satoshi is. That's true. I can't deny that. I would love to smoke him out. The very American saying, right? Let's smoke him out. I would love that. And I admit there's a kind of childlike part of me that would love it if Satoshi came out and said, hey, I'm here. Do not burn my coins. And that's it. It would be dropped. Cool. It's his property, right? I would just like to get a message from Satoshi. If Satoshi's even around anymore, I don't know. But let's say he doesn't answer. Maybe he soundly acquiesces if he really believes like this is the best thing for Bitcoin, to get rid of his coins and remove that as an option. So whatever Satoshi came back, he would be essentially only a voice. He wouldn't have the teeth to really meddle in the market. And that's really that's the axis of this whole debate. Right?
Well,
We
remember
can talk about that
our
forever. I'm
best
sure
our
John
best
Zavala
case
would have
our best
quite a
case
bit
scenario
to say.
for these coins is that Satoshi didn't save the keys. That this was early testing of a project, and a lot of computer science people don't save keys. They're not very uptight with the details. Let's say he just decides to put it in a garbage file and threw them away, and then destroyed that computer. That's our best case scenario. Anything else than that, we have basically, and we were talking about this morning on Bitcoin Talk Show. People can check this out. There's kind of a demigod out there. There's a monster waiting to be unleashed, whether it's the good Satoshi, it's the bad Satoshi, whether he donates them to a charity, whether to 100 charities, 1,000 charities, whatever happened with these coins, there's a world-changing amount of good or world-changing amount of bad wrapped up inside of these coins. To take them away to Satoshi seems like a simple and obvious plan. Now, everyone else in the chat's disagreeing. They're going back and forth. Now, what about the fork? Obviously, this would create 2 copies of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Satoshi and Bitcoin not Satoshi. What do you think about that aspect of the plan, Ray?
Bitcoin Satoshi or Bitcoin not Satoshi? I don't really understand. It'd be 2 separate forks. I mean, it wouldn't be a hard fork, right? It'd be a soft fork. And Satoshi, like, if he came back after the coins were burned, he could still prove that he owned them, right? The coins, like, he could still prove that he owned them if he came back at any other time. And again, with another soft fork, I believe we could undo that move, right?
I think we could.
Technical damage is not.
Now, what would we assume that it would be a soft fork? Because I'm not sure if it would be backwards compatible with the previous Bitcoin. I was picturing more like a hard fork, similar to Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, where you essentially have 2 versions of Bitcoin, and now we have a civil war. But let's assume that everyone did agree, and we could incorporate it as a soft fork. Doesn't that put us really close to a slippery slope where they say, hey, those are Al Qaeda's coins, or those are ISIS coins, or I don't like that guy Joe, whatever it is, something like that?
Yes, but that's already happening. And believe me, that's happening right now. I mean, I'm looking how things are moving forward in compliance, Bitcoin crypto regulation compliance land. And things are already there, man. They are already there. You're not going to believe, what's going on right now. It boggles the mind. So I'm just being realistic. If it's a hard fork, I would absolutely say no. If it's a soft fork and it's relatively painless, knock on wood, then it's possibly worth considering. But there's a lot of smarter people out there that can talk about the technical aspects of it, but I would not support a hard fork. It should be a soft fork from my limited understanding.
Well, we'll have to put it out to the technical people and get more information about this. I'm not sure if all the Satoshi coins are in a single address, or maybe there's a series of addresses that could be removed, something like that. Just want to go ahead and open it up to the chat. If anyone has a question in the chat, go ahead and put your question in right now. We'll put your question up for Ray. Otherwise, I think it's an interesting thing to talk about, and I think it's definitely something that we might need a deterrent for. But then this gets into a whole nother slippery slope, because if the deterrent really rolled back the Satoshi coins, maybe it would roll them back even if he started spending them. So if Satoshi came back and started spending the coins, and then we rolled them all back, but then it becomes this whole judgmental thing where we don't like what Satoshi's spending the coins, or we're not giving him the right to spend those coins. Here's a question from Yuvas in the audience. He says, why are people so nervous about Satoshi coins? I'll go to Ray first, and then I'll answer too.
Why are we so nervous about his coins? Okay, so it's a good question. If he came back and he decided to start spending his coins, would it crash the market? I don't think so. There's plenty of OTC services out there, right? Plenty of guys in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. They're like, yeah, we'll buy up, $5 billion of your coins. So you probably go for that. If you really you do that instead of crashing the market. So I don't think the threat of him crashing the market is a problem. I really don't. And a lot of people who are pro this would probably make that argument. I don't think that's the main issue. The main issue is ideological. It's an issue of natural philosophy and ethics, right? And it's also an issue of, look what's happening now. Someone's claiming to be Satoshi, it seems like every week, right? And it's just starting. It truly is just starting. I can see a future where this is going to happen constantly. There's going to be all these people coming up, and every single one of them is going to take a piece of the Bitcoin community and fracture it off, right? And they're going to get a lot better than Craig Ryder, this latest guy. It might even be the Antichrist in the future that claims, yeah, I made Bitcoin. Hey, get a QR code on your forehead. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's not that it makes me nervous. It's that this question exposes a lot of the weaknesses in our community, and it also brings up our strength. So I think it's a conversation definitely worth having. I think it's something that would align us towards unity, and it's great, that people are coming out and voicing very strongly that they are, they don't approve of this, especially the libertarians. So I thank all my libertarian brothers out there for being so strong. Some of the comments did hurt me, though, deeply, but I'll get over it.
I think it's interesting, Ray, that for you, it's not just the number of Bitcoin, because for me, it is part of that fear that 980,000 would wreck the markets. There's also that fear that just Satoshi moving the coins means maybe Satoshi knows more than we do. If Satoshi found a weakness in Bitcoin, like it crashes on a certain number or something, he would want to get out of it. It's kind of like if Jeff Bezos sold all of his Amazon stock tomorrow, we would get a little nervous. What's going on with the company? So there's a lot of that, but it seems you're taking it at a larger scale and a larger level that maybe we shouldn't have a king. Maybe that Satoshi's wealth, the amount of wealth locked up in this account, if Bitcoin is successful, and as Bitcoin's been so incredibly successful so far, has created a king. Maybe we should preemptively remove this king before worse things happen. I think a lot of this comes up to that whole kind of preventing disease idea, where we can get at it early and then it doesn't become a bigger problem later, or we can wait until it's out of control like Ethereum, and then there's not much we can do. What do you think about that, Ray?
Yeah, that does make perfect sense, because ultimately it's a spiritual thing, right? Like Bitcoin, what is it now? Almost 11 years old. We're entering our adolescence right now, so we still haven't grown up. If we put this specter to rest, if we took this landmine and disarmed it and removed the option, to me it would seem like, hey, Bitcoin is now truly decentralized, because whatever origins it had have been, the teeth has been taking off any potential damage they could do, or potential good as well. But to me, it seems like it would grow up with it. Like it would truly be decentralized then. It would truly have nothing, no chains holding it down at that point. It's something worthy for us to consider, because, like, think about it this way: the development of Bitcoin, is it decentralized? Are those core developers, like, do they answer to someone? Are they being paid salaries? Is there a central mind behind that? There are probably several, right? I mean, those guys are being paid, right? So whatever new features the community is coming to a consensus on, right? So it's not completely decentralized there. It might be completely centralized. It depends on who's want to take it at word face value.
Certainly if Satoshi came back, he would have the funds where he could attempt to centralize Bitcoin. He would have the funds where he might be able to hire all or most of the core developers. He would have the clout where maybe he could even get back in to edit the original Bitcoin code to update the GitHub. It is kind of a romantic idea, Ray. It's a spiritual idea that Bitcoin could get so big that it could kill its own creator to protect itself from its creator. It's a little Frankenstein, right? It's a little the Frankenstein monster, but a good Frankenstein, right? Again, where everyone's it's one of these things that people have a hard time understanding. Like, there's this old line from Star Trek about Nixon going to China, and that only Nixon could do it. And if you guys don't know, Nixon was a big anti-communist. He was practically number 2 to Joe McCarthy during the McCarthy hearings. He was a very virulent, he's the kind of guy who said Alger Hish got framed. That kind of guy was Nixon. And he went to China. He made peace with the communist Chinese. And this, in a lot of ways, led to a lot of our prosperity, a lot of the ability to build Chinese stuff, plastic stuff, things in China, everything came from this deal that started in the 1970s, that someone who it was morally impossible for him to make this deal, yet in many ways opening up China was the right thing for both countries. It's a complex issue, but in many ways for this, maybe removing the Satoshi Bitcoins would remove once and for all a lot of the reason why the media and everyone's so interested in this creator. because the first line is, so, Bitcoin has a mysterious creator. Well, it's software code, so that can happen. A book could be released, code could be released, things can be released. Then you say the mysterious creator of Bitcoin controls, I don't know what it is, billions of dollars of wealth. Once that starts happening, you wonder if that's something we need to fix. So I think that's where you're coming from on this, Ray.
Yeah, absolutely. The analogy with Nixon is great. He made an unpopular decision, but it was a great decision. It led to peace, it led to growth, it led to prosperity on both sides. Maybe a more recent example is Game of Thrones. Jon Snow. He said, hey, let's work with the wildlings. The Knights of the Wall did not like that. They tried to kill him, right? But ultimately his decision was the right one to help, right? So in our case, of course, it's all debatable. But ultimately, if Satoshi comes back, all right, is he going to be a prophet of God? He's not a prophet of God. He's a human being, right? He's not going to be a perfect human being either. And developers, God bless them, I'm a developer, they don't necessarily make good rulers, right? And that's the kind of power this person would have. So fine, he can come back at any time. He can have whatever hairstyle he wants, wear whatever clothes he wants, espouse whatever ideas or notions he wants. But if we as a community took away these coins, took them off the table and said, okay, no one's getting these coins, they're just disappearing. Collectively, the entire Bitcoin ecosystem gets richer. We remove something that could only, it could do bad, right? A lot of bad. But as for good, that'd be debatable. When you unleash a titan on the scene like this, we've seen how bad it is with just guys like Craig Wright and how much damage he can do. Imagine if the real Satoshi came out, what would happen? It's a great analogy. It all comes down to us as a community. What are our boundaries? And that's really the question that is core right now. Do we have the right in Bitcoin to delete anyone's coins? And forget about even Satoshi right now, anyone's coins. Like CZ basically wanted to delete the coins of this hacker because he hacked the network. He wanted to roll it back. And I agree, that was something that should not be considered. But why should we delete the coins of the creator of Bitcoin? For God's sakes, he made the whole thing. Let him have his coins, right? Is it really that dangerous for us? Financially, I don't think it's going to be that bad, but from all the chaos that he could cause, and just ideologically, it would be us initiating Bitcoin to a new level. Hey, we have removed this ghost. Bitcoin is now truly for the people, by the people. It would really send a sign to the world that this scene has matured immensely at the cost of setting perhaps a very bad precedent in terms of override of a blockchain. I don't believe we should ever go down that hard fork route. So I'm open to more questions from the people. The best thing about this is that it gets us all talking, and then hopefully in a very kind of rational way, where we're really for the greater good. Remember, no one's getting any extra money out of this. No one's taking Satoshi's coins. We're just removing them from the table.
It does sound like a really interesting idea, like they're saying in the chat. So the Bitcoin should punish the founder of Bitcoin by deleting his coins. But in a lot of ways, it is the only way to secure Bitcoin and to make it safe from the potential problems that this could cause. So I think we're going to keep going over and coming back to this. In a lot of ways, I wish we had done this earlier on in Bitcoin's history, when it wasn't so much money, when it wasn't such a big deal. But in a lot of ways, we have no choice now that it has become such a big deal, now that it is worth so much money, and that it could be worth so much more in the future. Either Satoshi's descendants, Satoshi's foundation, wherever these Satoshi keys go up, they would go away. I don't know. We're still on the slippery slope argument. People are saying that it could open the door. I think mainly this is just going to open the door to more discussion. So Ray, where can people check you out on Twitter? What would you like to say just in closing here? Go ahead.
You can find me Ray Paxful on Twitter. I'm all over the place. Ray Paxful everywhere. I'm even Ray Paxful on TikTok. You can email me at ray@paxful.com. I really appreciate the open dialogue. I think it's very, very healthy for all of us to be talking like this. And you brought up a great point. If we had done this earlier, it would have been so much better. Because right now it feels like we're like an 11-year-old child walking around with its umbilical cord still attached to its mommy Nakamoto. And as pathetic as that sounds, that's our situation right now. But this is like a $200-300 billion economy, and that's just the start. Imagine this is a $10 trillion economy. Like, imagine that, and we still got to deal with this skeleton in the closet. It really does not send a good sign. I mean, I think the central bankers, those boogeymen out there, would take us a lot more seriously. We said, hey, this is Bitcoin's homecoming, and we as a community got together and said, we're going to level this up. We're going to protect it from its own worst enemy, its own best friend, right? Satoshi Nakamoto. It would send the real message to the world, and it would cause us all to grow up. And I think ultimately that's what we need more than anything else. We need to grow up and come together. I can't take all this infighting that's happening in Bitcoin. It really is. I mean, people that are trying to actually build for Bitcoin along real use cases, we're still small potatoes, right? Like, all the money is in the speculation. All the money is in like speculation as a use case, like 95%, and that is so toxic. So I'm looking at a future right now for Bitcoin where it's still mired in toxicity. It's a swamp of speculation, manipulation. It's 10 times worse than Wall Street, seriously. And it can all be swayed by a few personalities with cartoon advertisements. That's the phase we're in. Anything we can do to remove that threat from the game will seriously level us up at an exponential rate. And the people of the global south need this more than anything else. That's where I'm coming from, guys. I'm not one of the smart guys here. I'm just one of the guys that's looking at the world and saying, hey, this is a way we could potentially fix this problem here. But let's talk about it.
All right, Ray. Well, thanks so much for the interesting idea, and thanks for joining us for the discussion. I think we're going to have a lot of back and forth. Like I've said before, this touches a lot of the libertarian core principles, a lot of these being able to spend your Bitcoin, do what you like. But on the other hand, we might need a deterrent. If Satoshi came back, I don't think it would be good for anybody. But thanks again for everybody for joining us. Please give us a thumbs up and a share. Be sure to subscribe down below. And if you'd like to, you could donate now to our Summer Gear fundraiser. We've got a new mixing board. We're trying to improve the show. So thanks so much, everybody, for donating. And thanks for watching and sharing the link. And thanks to Ray for joining us. And until next time, bye-bye.